growing up, wild America and TV nature documentaries were a huge part of how I discovered nature. And when I was with Marty, this is Marty, I felt like early explorers felt when they were discovering new species for the first time. I was awed and I was thrilled and I was full of wonder. And my work is about how we live and interact with nature and the potential for design to shape those encounters. So we no longer live in a world that needs a lot of exploring. Most of the uncharted places have been charted. So the task of today is not as much about discovering new species as it is about conserving those we already have. This is a whooping crane conservationist. His name's George Archibald, and he pioneered techniques for whooping crane conservation, such as dancing a mating dance with this whooping crane to try to get it to lay eggs. And he also, well, later he realized that he had imprinted on this crane, and so he devised this costume here with hand puppet for future conservationists to wear. So wild animals may have evolved through natural selection, but they survive or they go extinct these days because of human selection. And as we look into a future where it's projected that half of the 9 million known species are supposed to go extinct by the end of the century, I think we have to ask ourselves if we can imagine a world without wild animals. So my work tries to imagine a different future. Instead of conserving and preserving nature, I wonder how we can evolve it. So on the left is a grizzly bear from the Museum of Natural History in New York, and this is one form of natural preservation. But on the right, this is a grizzly bear, this is a growler bear, or a pizzly, which is a hybrid of a grizzly bear and a polar bear. And these are occurring more frequently as polar bears are being forced south because of climate change into grizzly territory. So I wonder if we can also try to shape evolution, force evolution to try to evolve something new and create something. We know more than ever before about evolutionary mechanisms because of the discovery that a certain set of genes functions as a bodybuilding toolkit for animal design, which means that the same gene that causes the development of an eye in a fly causes the development of an eye in a human. These genes exist across species. You know, another one decides how many fingers and toes you're going to have, regulates those divisions. So biotechnology gives us the ability to regulate and assemble these genes in new ways. And for me, that doesn't just mean, having a glowing rabbit or being able to exchange bits of DNA. It's the potential for entirely new ethologies and taxonomies, kingdoms of nature. So I think we can imagine a future with wild animals. And a lot of my work is about figuring out what that might look like. So perhaps it starts in our homes. In nature, orchids use chemical signals to attract insects and to communicate with each other. But if it's possible for orchids to detect chemical signals, could they also detect human pheromones and develop an ability to be able to communicate that information? So this is a future species of orchid that I designed, Orchidaceae sanguinalis. It's also known as the bleeding orchid. And it's designed to display the ovulation cycle of females living in close proximity. So not only is it beautiful, but it becomes an active influence on human sexual and reproductive behavior. I think that's a new kind of interaction. So that's some flora. But outside of our homes, most of us encounter wild animals for the first time face-to-face in zoos. And zoological gardens have become institutions of conservation. They have software that optimizes captive breeding in order to maximize genetic diversity. This means that we're trying to ensure that species survive into the future. But without any habitat left to return to, how will we decide what's natural for them? And at that point, what are we conserving? So instead of preserving animals as an artifact of wilderness that no longer exists, these are some experiments I did thinking about how we could evolve animals to exist in the world that we already create. So these are lavender fields and tulip farms. And what if we could redesign the zoological garden to celebrate the evolutionary potential of animals? So welcome to Regent's Park of Evolution. This is an expansion of the old London Zoo to take over all of Regent's Park and showcase a new model of human-animal interaction. Meet the Superbivore. This animal lives in the northwestern area of the park and scales the vertical cliffs there in order to reach fruits that are in the forest canopy that it feeds from. It's got the neck of a giraffe and the balance of a goat, so it can actually walk out on tight rope wires into the canopy and use its combination of antlers, horns, and ossicones to rake through the canopy and harvest fruits, which then spiral down its horn. To manage superbivore populations, the Retro-Reflective Carnivore is released to the park regularly. This species combines adaptations that were formerly only seen in cats or dogs, and it also is a hexapede, which means it has 6 legs. However, it doesn't hunt by stealth. It uses the optical quality of its fur and small muscles to twitch and create a light show, which sort of dazzles the superbivore like a deer in headlights. And in the northwestern area of the park, or northeastern, sorry, what appears to be a perfectly manicured garden is actually the creation of the beaked porcupine and the symbiotic relationship it has with these ants that it cultivates. And together they create the landscape here. So these are just a few of the creatures that I've imagined in order to ask the question of whether we can become designers and creators in our own wilderness. And through imagining and building these prototypes, I want to blaze trails into a future where design can harness the endless potential of biology, and we can create future life forms that are most beautiful and most wonderful and can continue to evolve. So thanks.